the lane. 15-10. Touchdown, Chargers.
What's up, guys? We're back with a Week 7 edition of Chargers Weekly. As always, joined by Matt Money Smith. As the Chargers fall to the Cowboys, Monday Night Football 20-17. A game they were in seemingly the entire 60 minutes. And, Money, just a combination of things, man. I don't know if you could pin it on one specific. It was an ugly game, 9 penalties. The pressure that Justin Herbert had on him was more than I think I've seen in recent memory, at least. Even when Justin had a clean pocket, he was sailing some balls. And, defensively, you can hold Tony Pollard to 2 yards a pop, but it just takes one play. And I really think at the beginning of that fourth quarter, that 60-yard big chunk play that Pollard, I think Michael Davis missed a tackle and a couple guys stopped short before the whistle. And that was kind of the one play that got the Cowboys going and really all they needed.
Yeah, I think, to me, I don't think the score told the story. I felt like the Chargers got outplayed in that game quite a bit. It did not feel like it was their game. Save the first drive, Yeah. They forced the 3 and out. That first drive, they looked like a buzzsaw, and we're like, all right, here we go. We might end up with one of these, incredibly exciting Charger primetime games, 28-21, 35-30, 28, one of those. And then it just stalled out. The offense could not get anything going, and a big part of that was just the offense got no push. The O-line got no push. Mm-hmm. They were on their heels the whole game. Justin said as much. I don't think I'm being mean or anything when I say it was a really bad Herbert game. He did not play well. There was pressure, but there was also time, and I think the pressure got to him a little bit. I think he alluded to that. We don't see him sail balls like that. Those are two brilliantly drawn-up plays by Kellen Moore. Those shot plays, the slant, both of them slant and goes. And, I mean, my gosh, Deron Bland's doing a somersault on the one. Keenan juked him so hard on the left sideline. And to see, Herbert not under pressure, airmail that thing was like, holy cow, we do not see that ever. And I think a lot of that was just, it was in his head. The one at the end of the first half, I think you're talking about a 10-point swing. The Cowboys get a field goal out of that, and and the Chargers, don't get. I think that was a touchdown. The one down the left sideline going the other way, the first one that he threw. Yeah. Keenan had one guy to beat, and it looked like he had an angle on him, and he had a blocker in front of him. So that's a bummer. They run RPOs all the time. You got to be better in eligible men downfield like that. You can't. You got to just kind of think the plays, and they didn't do that. Now granted they got a touchdown anyway with Keenan, but that should have been a Josh Palmer touchdown. Were it not for the ineligible man downfield, and it's just you kind of got to understand how those plays work. They do take a second to develop. You can't fire out of your stance and start running downfield in case it's not the run play if he's going to pull it and throw it. So there was that. It was a really bad Derwin game. That touchdown was all on him, the Dak, and I think that's something that's probably got to be discussed. Is he's struggling, man. He is not having a good year. Derwin is not, and the penalties just they have to stop. They just have to stop. They're bad penalties. And I'm trying to kind of just talk straight and not be, too critical. I think it's just what you see. It's Ferguson's on the ground. He is already tackled, and you are 2 beats late when you lower your head and blow him up. Like, you've got to be better. That's 15 yards. The play to Dak is just not thinking through the play and knowing what your responsibility is in that moment and watching him run right by you for an 18-yard touchdown. So I think that's a big issue on the defense is just Derwin is one of the 5 best defensive players in the league, and he has been anything but this year, and I think that's really hurting this team. I'm going to disagree with Coach a little bit on the CeeDee Lamb stuff. He's wide open. Guy is wide open. 7 targets, 7 catches, 117 yards. Now, I am going to, tip my cap to coach and to Coach Staley and to Derek Ansley, the DC, defense was good enough. You hold the Cowboys to 20 points, and you're good enough. That's the offense has got to win that game, So defense, I thought overall played great, but I think to suggest that you met, and that's the issue. And I know I'm kind of going on a little bit too long here, Chris. So I'll try to wrap it up with this, and we can obviously dig in deeper. But you can't let CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons beat you. We talked about this. There's two guys. That's like they're signaling the right hand. Hey, here's the hammer. Okay, and you're like, okay, I know that's it. I got to make sure I look out for that. I can deal with the left jab. I can deal with the body blows. I cannot take the right hand to the face. And 7 for 117, some on 3rd and 12, third downs. He's wide open. And I think that's an issue. And I think not to realize on that final drive, you have got to know exactly where Micah Parsons is if you're Justin Herbert. That is 100%. The one guy when you are standing there in that shotgun, okay, where's 11? Where is he? And there he is. I know where he is. I got to make sure he's in my periphery, and we'll get deeper into it. But that's I think just kind of some of the things that are frustrating is you let those two guys beat you, as opposed to, I don't know, take your pick, Odigizua and Michael Gallup. You know what? We doubled Micah Parsons and and also got us on the inside. Okay, fine.
I want to go back to what you were saying about Derwin, because I coincidentally, sometimes you run around SoFi Stadium. I was in the lobby area where you and DJ, your call is being heard by people, and the second 15-yard penalty. You could hear it in your voice. It's like, hey, this can't happen, and it's 3 free points, right? It's so
exactly right.
You're giving points away, and we hear so much about this defense that, hey man, we for the most part we held them. For the most part it was this. Tony Pollard had 2 yards of carry. That's great, but you know what? There's 64 defensive snaps in this game, right? Some of them are self-inflicted penalties. Some of them are. The one in particular, Money, like the Tony Pollard play, that can't happen. That cannot happen. A 60-yard chunk play when you had him dead to rights, and it was going to be a 20-yard play, but it turned into a 60-yard play. So there's these stretches where you said it, CeeDee Lamb, 7 targets, 7 catches, $117. You knew that he was frustrated the week before not getting the football. They were going to make a concerted effort to get him the football. They obviously made quite the effort to get Dak on the move, and that RPO kind of set things off for the Cowboys offense. And I think just when the Chargers are on offense, you felt Micah Parsons. It may not show up on the stat sheet, but every play, man, I was watching Micah Parsons, and whether it's a hold or an offensive lineman in Justin's lap, I think that set the tone for the evening, because Justin had some of these balls that he sailed were actually clean pockets. But you felt Micah, like Micah was going to get there in a second and a half. And I want to say that his presence alone and some of the things that he did to kind of set the evening up really may have had the offensive line and Justin thinking twice. Now, I can't speculate as to, because we don't see that from Justin. Man, we don't see him sail balls like that, especially ones that are going to go for potential touchdowns or big plays. So, he had the finger injury a couple of weeks ago. You don't have Corey Linsley, and I think, Money, too, this was a huge illustration of just how important Corey Linsley and Mike Williams are to this offense.
Oh.
It's like, and I don't know which one is more valuable. Maybe Corey, because the pressure that they were getting and their lack of being able to run the football with Austin Ekeler, 14 carries, 27 yards, 1.9 a pop. You can't establish the run. If you don't establish the run, then Micah and company are going to pin their ears back. So the loss of Corey and Mike Williams, I think, was the most glaring to me in terms of, okay, how are we going to make this offense right again with those guys out?
It's Mike Williams, Chris.
Yeah.
It's Mike. Like and I just pulled up the stats because I want to make sure I had the numbers right. Mike left the game in week 2, right? Week 2 against Tennessee. Or I'm sorry, week 3. He leaves the game in week 3. and against Minnesota on that screen. So he's in for half of that game, or maybe a little bit less than half of that game. He's still the second leading receiver on this team. Like, you're talking about 2.5 games, and he is still the second leading receiver in receptions and yards. Like, he had 19 receptions. He's still the second leading receiver. They've played 2.5 games without him. You know, they have not overcome that injury. No. Not even close. And so I think, speaking, you know, just kind of picking up off you know, your observations there, one, Justin had to do a better job of incorporating Austin Ekeler. They're just, there's two guys, too. And so I'm sort of, and this is something I think people have learned about me in all the years we've done this, is I can be a bit of a hypocrite and contradict myself week to week. It's just how it works. Fine. But, you know, so I get on Quentin after the Raider game for dropping that third down pass and say, you got to be better, you got to get your hands. Well, you know what? Justin's got to target him. It's getting ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. The fact that Justin had as many targets and one more reception. Justin Herbert had one more reception than Quentin Johnston. Whatever your issues are, get over them. You know, throw him a pass. Get him on those TCU specials, those quick posts, and just get the ball in his hands. Give him some confidence. Let him be involved. Stop having him run routes down the field constantly, trying to drag a safety with him, who, by the way, is not going because they know you're not throwing him the ball. So you're basically playing 10 on 11 at this point. So one of two things has to happen. One, someone's got to tell Justin to throw him the ball. And Kellen has to say, hey, this is a one-read route. It's a quick slant for Quentin, and you're going to put the ball in his gut, okay? And we're going to see what happens. Because otherwise, he can't play. You can't have him on the field. Just sit him and put Darius Davis and have Josh Palmer and Keenan on the outside, put Darius in the slot, move him around, motion the hell out of him, or play both Gerald and Donald Parham. Like, you're going to have to do something else. Because if 10 ain't going to look at 1, it's a waste. You're losing the numbers battle because they are not committing the safety to him. He's not dragging a second defender with him to take the top off the defense, and Justin is throwing passes to a bracketed Josh Palmer. Keenan's incredible. I mean, the guy's open all game. He's just incredible. He really is. Like, I don't know how at this age, receivers do not play like this after the age of 30. And he is having arguably one of his best, if not his best season, just watching him, how open he is and what 100%. He is. Dude, Deron Bland is doing somersaults because of the routes that Keenan is breaking off. So I get being locked in on him. But again, Mike Williams went down early in the Minnesota game, and his 19 receptions are 3 more than Gerald Everett has for second best on the team. And his 249 yards are 29 more than Joshua Palmer has. Like, we've got to get – I went back and I watched a bunch of 2020 film because I was just trying to figure out, I'm like, hey, what was Shane doing? Like, why did it look so different? Why was it so explosive? Why did it feel like something special could happen on any play when he took a snap? And now I just feel like there's so many wasted downs. There's just so many balls thrown away early. There's so many, like, just check downs, and I don't want to wait for that play to develop. There's so much of that, and it is like watching a different player. It really is. Like, if you go back and watch the film from 2020, man, that Tampa game with T. Billy and Guyton, and man, he is just, it's like watching a different dude. That was rookie Justin Herbert against Tom Brady going to the Super Bowl. Yeah, that year. I mean, he is on the move all the time. He is taking snaps and he is running out of the pocket. He's extending plays. He's like, I think, like I'm watching, and you know what it came from, Chris, was I was watching that 4th and 1 that he threw, should have been intercepted, the pass he threw to Palmer in the end zone on the 4th and run. He takes the snap, and man, he runs so deep. He is 10 yards off the line of scrimmage before he makes that curl. And when I'm watching him in that Tampa game, man, he's just like snap, and he is just beelining. Like, hey, catch me. You ain't going to catch me. I'm faster than you. defensive linemen. And it's not, and like this, it's almost like he's like, okay, I got to buy time. I got to run back 10 yards, and now I'm going to set my feet. And he can't get that 1 yard. If he had just taken that snap, spun out, that edge was open. He's got the 1 yard on his own. He's got it. And there's a 1st and goal. Instead, he just it's just been a little wonky. It's been a little bit wonky. So this, and I think he knows it. He said it in the presser. It's like, this is on me, and he's right. He's right. I think he's just got to kind of, and look, his left finger is busted up. You saw it in that first play action to Ekeler. He almost fumbled the ball. You could see he had the ball in his left hand for the play action. And it kind of like bobbled, and it's like, oh boy, this ain't good with the hand. So that's part of it. You're constantly thinking about that. But yeah, it was a bad game for the offense. It was a bad game for Herbert. The play he threw the interception on, and this is just like, to me, Chris, to kind of put a button on it, like, the guy's got 14 fourth-quarter game-winning drives, right, in his career, his young career. He's only in his 4th season, and he's got 14 of them already. I would, if I could go back through all of them, I would almost guarantee you at least 10 of them are Austin Ekeler heavy. And now we've got 3 opportunities this year. Overtime in Tennessee, 3 and out here against the Cowboys, and they get a first down to Everett, and then a 3 and out against the Dolphins. And it's like, where's the Ekeler play? Go back and watch 3rd down, the interception to Stephon Gilmore. Eckler's wide open. Just, these are Ekeler drives. If he's in front of the line of scrimmage, dump it off, because I guarantee you he's getting a minimum of 5 yards, and he's probably going to get you 15 because he's Austin Ekeler. Yeah. Like, first downs, not touchdowns, first downs. So you got a 2nd and 2. Where's Ekeler? Where's Ekeler? Instead, 7-step drop, Micah Parsons in my lap. Like, those are Ekeler drives. Yeah. Get these first downs.
The Ekeler situation in this game was just 14 carries for 27, $109 on the ground, and the 4 for 35 through the air. One of them was that 28-yard reception at the beginning of the game. Yeah. After that, it was nothing. So yeah. I'm with you. I don't know if it's the lack of being able to establish the run that really hurt them in this game, Money, because it was just so predictable. It's like, okay, we can't get any yards on the ground. 2.3 yards per carry. Joshua Kelly had 1 carry for 2 yards. Isaiah Spiller 1 carry for 2 yards, and then Austin just had nothing going. With Justin and Quentin, I honestly, you get into a point where it's like, okay, I'm having a hard time understanding how this is going to work, especially coming off a bye. And I'll add Darius Davis into the mix too. We saw him get creative, Kellen Moore, with Darius Davis with Austin out a couple of weeks ago. Darius didn't even have a touch or a target in this game. Yeah. So I after that first touchdown drive, you're thinking, okay, man, we're going to light the scoreboard up in this game. And it got bogged down. And I would almost include that Raiders game is almost like a game-winning drive. Like that 50-yard pass to Palmer pretty much sealed the game. I know they had the lead, but the offense, again, when you have Corey out and when you have Mike out and you're dealing with all-pro pass rushers, it's going to look a little different.
The Mike effect is real, man. The Mike Williams being lost effect is real. I just want to do this, and I'm trying to figure out a way to do it for the people that watch it on YouTube, because I know not everybody has access to game film. So I'm just going to video this real quick, and then I'm going to try to flip it around and put it on the camera. And I just want people to see it. So let's see if I can make this work. All right. So here we go. I just want people to see, like, this is the 3rd down play, right? So, like, Look at Austin Ekeler. Now I got to figure out how to. I'm all backwards. So let me see if I can.
It's fine
to work here. And so, like, you can see Austin Ekeler. Here we go. Ready? Let me get this going.
This is the audio, folks. Right?
Yeah, exactly. This is the third. No, this is the 3rd down play. So, like, Austin Ekeler is at that between the 20 and 30. Mm-hmm. Can you see him there? Yeah. So, like, he's right between the 20 and 30. I can't figure out how to use my fingers to make it work, but just look between the 20 and 30 yard line, and there's Austin Ekeler. Like, that's the play. Like, those are the plays did that make sense? Did that work for you?
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah, like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, those are the Ekeler plays. That's what he's so good at. You dump it because they are protecting the deep shots. It's a third and 10. You know it's a 4-down play. So if you dump it to Ekeler there, you're at worst, you're probably looking at 4th and 1. You know, at best, you're talking about a 15-yard gain. So, like, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, this has worked. This is what you've used to win all those games in the fourth quarter for all of those comebacks. That's the formula. And I know he's under pressure, but again, that goes back to what I was saying. Where's Micah Parsons? I need to know where he is at all times. And, you know, that's how you go from 2nd and 2 to 3rd and 10 to an interception.
Yeah. I know the close losses are frustrating for everybody in that locker room and the fans, and you dropped to 2 and 3, and the problem now, Money, in the AFC, the parity's crazy. There's only 4 teams below 500 in the AFC, and Chargers are now one of them. The Titans, who they lost to, the Patriots, and the Broncos. And here we go, Kansas City Chiefs on a short week, Sunday at Arrowhead. So let's take a quick break, and we'll get into the Chiefs. All right, guys, a big thank you to our partner, Microsoft Surface, the official sideline technology provider and laptop of the NFL and the Los Angeles Chargers that provides players and coaches with the tools to succeed both on and off the field. Check out the powerful Surface Pro 9, combining the power of a laptop with the flexibility of a tablet. Go to surface.com. Also want to let you know about VIP ticket packages for the first ever Super Bowl in Las Vegas. They're now on sale, and only On Location offers all-inclusive experiences worthy of the entertainment capital of the world. Ticket packages boast an array of offerings such as premium seating to the game, epic pregame parties with headline talent, NFL legend appearances, premium drinks and fare, and much more. Visit NFLOnLocation.com or search NFL On Location today. Your football experience of a lifetime awaits, only with On Location. So, Money, as we enter Week 7, Chargers at 2 and 3. It's crazy. After losing to the Lions in Week 1, the Chiefs have reeled off 5 straight. They're 5 and 1. Yeah. This is a must-win for the Chargers if they have any chance of winning the division. And you hate to say it in Week 7, but it's just the facts. You can't go to 2 and 4 with the Chiefs at 6 and 1, and they have a tiebreaker against you. So they have 10 days of rest after beating the Broncos. Their defense is playing really good. We talk about Mahomes and Kelce, deservedly so, all the time, but the defense has played really well this year. We know how close these games are between Herbert and Mahomes, but it always seems like Mahomes always has the upper hand in the end. I expect the Chargers to bring out the kitchen sink in a game they have to have.
You know, we were talking about Dern a little bit earlier, and like, to me, and this is something that I would have liked to have seen in the Cowboys game, there were a handful of reps where, and it was for a window of time. Like, at first, Mikey got torched by CeeDee Lamb because he was playing 10 yards off of him, right? Well, then Coach Staley makes the adjustment. Mikey starts playing in press, and he starts roughing CeeDee up a little bit, and nothing's happening for a stretch of time, and Mikey is traveling with him. But he's not traveling with him when he settles into the slot. Like, Mikey's only on CeeDee Lamb when he's on the outside, and so now all of a sudden CeeDee's in the slot, Jasir Taylor's on him, and he's playing 10 yards off of him, and that's where all of his catches come from. The point I'm getting to is I would love to just see Coach say, hey, Derwin, you got one assignment today. It's Travis Kelce. And if he's not on the field, check with me. I'll tell you what we're doing. You know, check with Kenneth. He'll tell you what you're doing. Otherwise, you go where 87 goes. That is all you're doing, because we know Derwin can rough him up. He can body slam him. He can beat him to, now look, Travis Kelce is one of the best players in NFL history at his position, so he's gotten the upper hand a handful of times, but so is Derwin. And that, to me, is like such a great opportunity to get Derwin back on track this season, to simplify. That there was a CeeDee Lamb play, I think it was a 3rd and 12, and you got Jasir 10 yards off him, and by the time the ball is snapped, when CeeDee starts his route, he's now 5 yards behind the sticks, and it's just kind of one of those head scratchers. But there's also a trio of players when you go back and watch that play: Kendricks, Kenneth, and Derwin. and they're just standing on the opposite side of the field, like looking at Michael Gallup or something. And I think there's those moments because this defense asks so much and demands so much of players, particularly those linebackers in coverage and the safeties. And am I handing off? Am I following? What are we, that I would love to just see it simplified. Derwin, you got 87. You're one of the best players in the league. This is going to be, you guys get to have a street fight with one another. Congratulations. I know you love it. Let's go get it. Like, that's what I hope I see. I would love for that to be the case in this game. Because you mentioned it, Chris, their defense is really good. It's really good. Their offense has not played well. It has not played well. It's been a lot of Pacheco. I think Mahomes is still searching for anyone beyond Travis Kelce to be that receiver that he can trust. And it's just one game. It's like, maybe it's Kadarius. No, it's not. Okay, it's going to be you, Sky Moore. Yeah, no, it's not you, Sky Moore. You dropped 3 passes in this one and a touchdown. Okay, it's not you. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, nope, you're not getting, but maybe 2 targets a game. Rasheed Rice, okay, maybe. Nah, not you. You know what I mean? So take advantage of that, man. Do not Tyreek Hill, week 1. Week 2 was just weird, right? They just gave up those explosives, and that's how they ended up losing that game. Yeah. Week 3, Justin Jefferson goes for 150. Week 4, Devontae Adams goes for what? It was over 100 yards, right? And now in the 5th game, you've got CeeDee Lamb going for 117. Anyone but Travis Kelce. I know that's easy to say, but let's just try to make it anyone but Travis Kelce that gets you. If it's Rice and Tony combined for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns, congratulations. Congratulations, Chief. You found your receivers. I just would love for it to not be 87 that goes for 160 and 3 touchdowns. And I think if you just stick Derwin on him like a dog, just like, hey, dude, go get him. Yeah. I would love it because, man, those matchups have been so fun in the past. And it's why, as I'm looking at it, Chris, let's look at the games. 30-27 Chiefs, 27-24 Chiefs, 30-24 Chargers win, 34-28 Chiefs, 23-20 Chiefs in overtime. Like, that's how tight these games are. You know why? Because Derwin's been able to do it for the most part. He's been good with Kelce. So I would love to see that be the case again this week.
And it's simple. Like you said, simplify this thing for Derwin. And we know that that's the best matchup that they have is Derwin on Kelce. Defensively, though, when you're allowing just 14 points a game, I think it's 14.6 points per game. They gave up 21 to the Lions week 1 without Chris Jones. Since then, the Jags scored 9 points on them. The Bears scored 10. The Jets scored 20. The Vikings scored 20. And the Broncos scored 8. So that's almost the bigger matchup for me is Chris Jones up the middle on Will Clapp those guards, pressuring Justin Herbert, and how quickly, A, Justin can get the ball out of his hands, and B, how effective they can be running the football. Because it wasn't great. It wasn't great on Monday night, and to have a short week. I think the silver lining is this team, Money. Like, right. Justin knows the Chiefs. The Chiefs know the Chargers. Like, these division games are always going to be close because of that. But now it ratchets up the urgency in the season right now because you have to know the situation, right? You have to know that you're 2-3 with a game against the Chiefs. That could be the ultimate separator in the division as you move forward. And you no longer have your sights set on winning the AFC West. You're just fighting for a wild card spot with a host of other teams. Like, you don't want the Chiefs to wrap this thing up in mid to late October. And that's what's kind of on the line Sunday. Because I tell you this, if they go to 6-1 and you're 2-4,
it ain't happening.
It ain't happening, right? Yeah. So how do they get up after a difficult loss on Monday night, another close loss? They've had a ton of close losses. How do you get up for this game on a short week and give the Chiefs everything they can handle in an effort to really save your season?
Well, I think, there's a few things that have to happen in order for them to get the win. One, Zion Johnson's got to be better. He's really struggled so far. There's a lot of pressure coming through him. right now. Rashawn Slater does not look right. We talked about it coming out of the Raider game with the ankle. It looks like that's still bothering him, and that's a big issue because before that thing is, you can stamp that thing paid. Ain't nobody getting through Rashawn Slater, and that's not been the case now since he got bent backwards in that Raiders game. It flipped like a switch. And so I'm hoping maybe one more week. I hope he's all right, but it's clear that he's just not the same. He doesn't get pushed around like he got pushed around in the Dallas game. DeMarcus Lawrence was able to kind of put him on skates a couple times, and we have never seen that. Yeah. I mean, literally never. I have never seen Rashawn Slater on skates. So that's a concern. When you're talking about the best interior rusher, save Aaron Donald in the league, that's going to be a problem because I guarantee they know what they're looking at, and it's Will. And by the way, Will Clapp tweaked something in that game too. So now you've got a bit of a leaky Zion Johnson, bad ankle on Slater, and a backup center that's dealing with an injury. That's going to be tough. So they're going to have to game plan for that and assume that pressure is going to be coming up quick up the middle. So they've got to figure out how they're going to block it up and which way he's booting out. And you're just going to have to cut the field in half. And I think so much of that is going to be getting creative with Ekeler. Their linebackers are very athletic and fast. Bolton, Gay, those guys are quick. They can fly all over the field. Their safeties are good. They're young secondary players. McDuffie, I think, is a star. So that's a concern. It's going to be tough, I think, to get the running game going with, again. And I think that's a big thing that came out of the Cowboys game is just they couldn't get push because Rashawn couldn't get pushed like he usually does. I think that's a major issue that's not being talked about. Normally he is cleaning his guy out. And that is one thing that Zion is good at, is he's just so strong. When you combine he and Rashawn, they're able to get big push, and now you're running the ball. And that just was not the case. They were on their heels the whole game. So that's a concern. Offensive, against the Chiefs offense, you've got to get the turnovers when they're there because they're going to be there. It happens every game. Mahomes puts it up for grabs a couple times, and you've got to be able to secure them. So it's not going to be easy. They're essentially coming off a bye when you consider the Chargers are on 6 days plus a travel day, and the Chiefs are on the mini bye from Thursday. It's going to be a very tough game, but the Chargers have played there's a few things to get to here. One, think about how they've played, right? They needed to score the ball against Miami and Minnesota, and what do? They score the ball. What does the defense do? Gives up a ton of yards and points. They needed to get into a rock fight with Tennessee and Dallas because of how stout and good their defenses are and how much they want to grind possessions out. What do? They get into a rock fight, they grind it out, and they lose by a field goal. And then the Raider game was just, you are dominating this team in the first half, and you allow them to creep back in. And it's a team that you're much better than the Raiders. And they just allowed them to creep back in. So that's the one encouraging thing. I know it sounds like a negative, but what I'm getting at is this team's going to be in every game. For whatever reason, they have this resilience where they're able to not get blown out and stay in games and keep them in the balance and give themselves an opportunity. They just need to start cashing those opportunities in. Minnesota and Vegas, they were able to just hang on by their fingernails, right, and win the game and get those interceptions late. The Tennessee game, they should have. They're so much better than that team. That's the one that I'm afraid is going to haunt us. Just they got no business losing that game. They should be 3-2. I think that's fair. The Miami game, they had a lead in the fourth quarter. The defense gave it up early on that Tyreek Hill play on a 3rd and long, where for some reason Jasir Taylor is singled up against him that scores the game-winning touchdown.
Plus the J.C. Jackson play before halftime, man. I mean, there was, again, it's a lot of these things that are controllables. And I think that's what they have to really strap up on is the controllables. The 15-yard penalties, giving up huge plays on 3rd and long. Things that you can control, missed tackles. You have to be perfect against the Kansas City Chiefs. And that's what they have to bring on Sunday. Offensively, you're right. Since Mike has gone down, save for that 51-yard Darius Davis play in the first half of that Raiders game, and they got a little juice after the Jerry Tillery scuffle. Second half, they didn't do anything. After that one play in the first quarter, or that one drive rather in the first quarter against the Cowboys, didn't do much of anything. So you have to establish what your identity is going to be moving forward offensively, and Quentin Johnston has to be a part of that in some form or fashion. I 100% agree with you. Get him something going early. Get the first round rookie some confidence. By any means, right?
I think he's 18th, Chris. I think he is 18th in rookie receiver receiving yards. There are 17 rookies that have more receiving yards than the number 2 receiver picked in the draft. Zay Flowers has like 30-something catches. Jordan Addison is a force. He's a force. He's a legitimate potential number 1 receiver.
Yeah, and he's showing it with Jefferson out now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, again, you keep telling us that, it's a draft pick for the future. For this team, Mike Williams is down. He's not a draft pick for the future. Mike
and not
Williams
with this
is
quarterback
down.
money. Not with this quarterback, right? Like, if you have a top 5, everyone says Justin Herbert's a top 5 quarterback, right? And you could argue it, and I'd agree he is a top 5 quarterback, top 7 quarterback, whatever. Your first round wide receiver's got to make plays with a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
Pick for the future doesn't work for me. That does not work for me. Not for a guy that was in the college football playoff and the championship game. Like, that doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. The guys are too ready to play when they come into the league. Puka Nacua, a 5th-round pick. Puka Nacua is a 5th-round pick, and he is lighting the league up. It's not basketball where you're drafting these kids who are still 18 years old, or baseball where you're drafting high school kids that are 18 years old and need to mature and grow into their body. That's football. These dudes are 20, 21, 22 years old. They're already men. Yeah. Like, future does not work for me. Not when Mike Williams goes down. And, and to me, like, the thing that I truly worry about is this is someone who came in with shaky confidence in his hands, where you can see it. It's called gathering. Mm-hmm. When you see receivers that aren't running through the catch and continue to go, they will slow down, they'll gather, catch it, and then they'll pick it back up and go. And that's what Quentin did at TCU a lot. He didn't run through the catch. He would lock on the ball, slow down, secure it, and then get going again. So you've already got someone who's got confidence issues in his past. I can't even imagine what's going through his head now. I'm on the field for how many snaps, and I don't even get looked at except for twice when the quarterback is in dire straits and just has to get rid of the ball. And that's the only time he was targeted on those 2 plays, is when everything completely broke down and Herbert had to get rid of the ball. That is not good for a young receiver who needs to get some sort of positive reinforcement that he belongs in this league. Because I can only imagine if he's on social media what that looks like. That can't be pretty. If he's in his own mentions, like, hopefully he's not, because I can promise you it don't look good. So, like, just get him one quick slant, get him a quick post, and throw him the ball. And if he drops it, then okay. But you cannot go through a game where you do not target him at all. That can't happen, or he can't be on the field.
Yeah, and you know what? It's 5 games in is way too early to make a determination on any player, right? So to your point, get him some confidence and play through some of these mistakes potentially. And like, we don't know the whole picture. I'm not at practice. I don't have the entire picture. I know that I was with you at training camp and I saw him make some spectacular plays in camp.
Yeah.
We saw potential. A lot of people are saying, hey man, look out for Quentin Johnston. So I know that they drafted him as the 2nd overall wide receiver for a reason, for his production at TCU and what they thought he could look like in this Kellen Moore offense. So coming off a bye, I think that's why you're scratching your head. It's like, okay, you have 2 weeks to prepare. Mike Williams is not in the lineup. Find a way to get this kid some confidence, get him involved in the game beyond just 2 targets. And there should be no excuse that he has 0 catches for 0 yards. So whatever it takes on Sunday to try to get him some confidence and make a play, maybe that one play, maybe that first catch for 8 yards, and then the second catch, he can do something with it for 15 yards, and that just kind of snowballs the confidence. I don't know what it is, but I know that he needs to be involved because the Chargers don't have a choice, right? Especially with Joshua Palmer. Money, we're taping this early too, so you guys have to check the injury report as we get closer to Sunday. Joshua was a late add with a groin injury. So we don't know. Right? Yeah, we don't know defensively what it's going to look like with some of the injuries that happened throughout the course of that game. But I do know this: if they want to win and they want to score points, you got to utilize everybody, and that's why again with Darius Davis too. I thought, okay, since Mike is down, they're going to have some stuff for Darius because he's shown some flash on offense. So both TCU guys, both rookie TCU receivers, I think have to have some sort of impact in this game.
There's just not enough production anywhere else. That's the big issue. So, and again, it's because you want the defense to commit resources. You can't allow them to play 11 on 10. If Quentin's going to be take the top off the defense guy and he's constantly running 9 routes and a safety's not traveling with him, well, then you got to throw him the ball. You've got to throw him the ball on one of those just to now force Spagnuolo to be like, okay, we got burned. We got burned.
Yep.
I left him in a one-on-one. They bid on a post, and he got inside leverage, and he took it for 40 yards. Now I have got to pay attention because he's not going to unless you throw him the ball. Like, you have to target him, or there's no reason to have him out there.
And Money, this is what's so concerning. I'm sorry, this is just what's so concerning to me is that Mike Williams was a Chief killer. Like he showed up every single game against Kansas City Chiefs. Now that you don't have him,
right.
Chiefs know all about Keenan Allen, right? They know what they have to do to try to limit Keenan Allen's production. So it's going to be on Austin. It's going to be on some of these young guys. It's going to be on Palmer, who actually had a good game against Kansas City last year. But not having Mike in this specific game, knowing what he's done all the way from that 2-point conversion with one of my favorite calls from you to just throughout the course of his career against Kansas City, right. You don't have that on Sunday, and you're going to have to adjust.
Or it's going to have to, again, like to your point with Darius Davis, you have to get creative because just traditional methods aren't working. The players are covered. Keenan's bracketed. Josh Palmer gets bracketed. They have faced more heavy boxes than any other team in the league. And this was supposed to be explosives. And I know without Mike Williams, it makes it a lot harder. But you've got to find ways to scheme that up. You're going to have to hit the waiver wire. Outside of giving a ridiculous quote to somebody at The Athletic, Simi Fajoko's got to play, I guess. If you're going to pick him up and put him on the active roster, get him out there. Yeah. So, and I'd prefer Simi moving forward. Let's not talk about your coach putting 100 on the Cowboys if you're not even out there to run any routes. Just probably not the best quote to throw out there for them to pick up on. But, like, this is a very talented team. It just is. It's a team that is way too talented to be 2-4. Yeah. I'm sorry. I know the Dolphins are talented. Again, the Tennessee game is going to stick with us. That's 2. The Cowboys game, the defense did enough to shut down a team that had averaged 28 points per game. They held them to 20, and the offense did not do their job. And, it's you're staring at a Chiefs team that's probably the best team in the AFC. And the one thing, look, I don't want it to be too negative of a pod. When there's wins, so we were talking about this after the game, DJ and I. It's like, so okay, you lose to Kansas City, you're 2-4. Well, now your next 2 games are Chicago and the Jets. Jets defense is really good. Offense is terrible. Chicago is terrible all around. So
without just
things work,
potentially,
if things work out, you're talking about 4-4. This is a team that was 6-6 last year and was able to rip off 4 straight to get to 10. So after that, you have a very good Detroit team that's coming to town that I would say on paper you would favor over the Chargers, but at least it's a home game. They've got to travel the 2 time zones to get here. After that, Green Bay on the road, not worried about them. Baltimore at home, again, not worried about them. Their defense has not been great. Their offense has not been great. Then you get New England, Denver, Vegas. Like, it's set up like last year, where as much doom and gloom as perhaps we're painting on this, it lays out all right, very similarly to last year. And then let's say they lose. Let's say worst case scenario, they lose this game to the Chiefs. Well, they play the Chiefs in week 18. You think they're going to be playing guys? No. They're going to have the division locked up. They're going to probably have the number 1 seed locked up. And they very well could be resting guys, and you can chalk that up as a win. So the path to 10 and into the wild card is there. It's there for them. But I don't think any of those teams are looking at the Charger game and going, oof, we got to play them. Like, that's the thing. They've got to right their own ship. On paper, they are more talented than those teams that I am listing. 2 games against Denver, 1 more against the Raiders, New England, Green Bay, Chicago, New York. There's 9 wins. They got 2 right now. That is 9 wins right there. 9-8, I think, is going to get you a wild card. Now, it'll come down to some tiebreakers and stuff, but 9-8 should get you a wild card. 10-7 definitely gets you in the tournament. Yeah. So it's still there for them to take, even if they lose this game.
This is the thing, Money. It's not even really doom and gloom. It's I think it's just frustration because you're 2-3 and you had a chance to win all 3 of those games.
Right.
In the very last drive. I mean, the J.C. Jackson penalty was the difference, in my opinion. I know that happened earlier in the game, but you know what? You lose by 2, and they kick a field goal before halftime. Give credit to Miami; they're explosive. You said it. The Tennessee game should have never happened. Those explosives should have never happened. But Justin had an opportunity to win that game late, and the offense didn't come through against the Titans. You can argue about Minnesota and Vegas, frankly. I mean, they both every game has come down to the wire. But again, right. Justin, another opportunity late in the game to tie it or win it in the fourth quarter. So every single game they have been in. So it's not doom and gloom to a point where you're losing by 14 or 21. It's just frustration that, like, you're in these games. You have the potential to live up to this potential that I think everybody has placed on you. To be a 5-1 team like the Chiefs, to be 3 or 4-1 at this point instead of 2-3, staring at 2-4 potentially. But I'll say this: I don't know what's going to happen on Sunday, but I know that the Chargers always play the Chiefs close, and I know that they're gonna empty everything out. And I wouldn't be surprised if they won the game and get to 3-3 just because of the way that they've played this team, because it's a division game. You have everything that's saying it's not going to happen, right? You have these key injuries offensively. You have a short week. The Chiefs have had your number. But every single time they go to Arrowhead, it comes down to the end. And maybe the fortunes flip this time.
So just a couple more numbers to as we kind of get out of here, right? To get you a little excited, a little positive. So Kansas City put up 41 on the Bears. Take that out, because when you look at their points per game average, it's going to skew it. Their other 5 games, they're averaging 21 per game. Now, the defense has given up just 15, and we talked about how good their defense is, but this formerly high-octane, Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs offense is not there this year. It's 1 game where they put up 41. Everything else, they are averaging 21 per game. The last 3 games, look, the Chargers defense, 5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, a special teams turnover against the Cowboys. Their last 3 games, 15 sacks, 6 turnovers. So the defense is at least creating opportunities. They're still giving up a little bit too much in the explosive category, but 15 sacks, 6 turnovers. So it's there. And Justin Herbert against the Chiefs, and a lot of these are against very similar, if not the same personnel. In his career, 68%, 291 per game, 15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, a 107.3 rating. He plays them well. He plays the Spagnuolo defense well. So if he wants, it's a very good defense. Don't get me wrong. It's very good, very talented. Yeah. A lot better than the Minnesota defense that Brian Flores decided to blitz 70% of the time. Or if not more, I think it's 80% of the time. But he plays them well. He plays them well, and hopefully everybody's healthy enough to stay consistent with those numbers I just rattled off. A lot of it comes down to personnel and who's playing and who's hurt and how hurt are they, things like that. But if history is our guide, they, like you said, play this team better than anybody else in the division and almost anybody else, maybe save Cincinnati, in the league.
Final thing for you, your one key to the game. Mine is just very simple, and you could point to 6 or 7 different things. But I think the self-inflicted mistakes, the 15-yard penalties, the missed tackles, things that you can control, you can't afford to make those mistakes against the Kansas City Chiefs because they'll kill you. So if I had to just say one thing, eliminate the 3rd and 19 conversion that the other team gets on you. Eliminate the 15-yard penalties, please. Tackle every play. 64 snaps, every snap counts last week, and again, it comes down to one play being the difference. In my opinion, Tony Pollard play that led to the touchdown. So every snap counts. Don't do anything that's going to be self-inflicted because you're not going to beat the Chiefs that way.
I didn't mention it when you said it early, so I'll just add this. Just huge tip of the cap to Asante Samuel for saving a touchdown on that. I thought 100%. He was gone. He should have scored and just because he had to shake off a blocker too. He had another Cowboy in front of him that he had to get past and kind of elbow past in order to get there. So that's just a huge hustle play and a great exhibition of determination and not giving up the easy score by Asante. Credit him there. In terms of keys to the game, I'm really going to put it on one person, Chris. I think this is a Herbert game. This has got to be a Herbert game. He's got to do what I just rattled off. He's got to do the 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions type of game. To me, that's what this is going to take. I based on how the Chiefs' offenses looked and just the defensive line, Tuli's emergence, every one of those 5 sacks, at least 3 of them I can think of, we got to come up with the hockey assist for sacks for Tuli because they're his sacks. The Khalil Mack sack was his. He pushed Dak right into Khalil for the sack. The Morgan Fox sack, same thing. He pushed him right into Morgan Fox. So
Tuli's the John Stockton of sacks. He's the John Stockton of sacks.
That travels. That's going to travel. Their offensive line is not good. So that's going to travel. This is a Herbert game. He had a bad game against the Cowboys. If we're being honest, he's had a bad 6 quarters. The second half against the Raiders was bad. The entire game against the Cowboys was not good. So let's get someone that's in the conversation as the most talented quarterback in the league back to right, as long as he's healthy, which I think he is. Save the finger, which shouldn't affect throwing the ball and hitting Keenan when Kellen Moore dials it up for 2 huge plays that really could have shifted the balance of that game. So that's where I'm locked. I think it's number 10.
Yeah, just similar to the Minnesota game. The Minnesota game was a Herbert game,
100%.
And you knew it because Cousins was on the other side and they had the explosive offense, and Justin was locked in from the jump in that game. And you're right, Money. It's going to hinge on the quarterback and the quarterback getting everybody involved. And we talked about the TCU guys, Joshua, Keenan, Gerald,
Ekeler.
Everybody, Austin especially, like you said. Now that Austin is back and he has a game under his belt, let's lean on Austin a little bit more because this offense has to, frankly. Yeah. So I'm with you. A Justin Herbert game, and again, I think every single game has been a possession in the fourth quarter separating Mahomes and Herbert. Yeah. And unfortunately for the Chargers, Mahomes has come up on the right end of things. We'll see if that changes on Sunday. So, hey, it's tough when they lose because I know people are frustrated. But the good news is that when you have 10, you're going to be in every game. Again, he may have had one of his worst games of his career, and they still lose by 3. So.
Let's see if I can just get it out on this one. I'm going to go back to 2021. The Chargers are 1-1. Herbert goes into Kansas City, 26 for 38, 281, 4 touchdowns, and they win 30-24. That's what we need. Ends up scoring 17 points in the fourth quarter. Williams 20 yards from Herbert, Williams 4 yards from Herbert, and a Tristan Vizcaino. I think he's a Servite Fryer. I believe that's what he was. A field goal in there, and they knock him off after trailing 24-21 with 6.5 minutes left. They knock him off 30-24. Let's get that.
That's it. We'll end there. Guys, always appreciate you watching and listening, whether it's in your car or on YouTube. For Matt Money Smith, I'm Chris Hayre. We'll see you next week. Hopefully the Chargers will be 3-3.